What's normal in your country that's considered weird in others? NZ. Going to the shops without shoes. I can't decide if that sounds fun or if I'm afraid of what I might step in. Country life, step in. City life, step on. An Australian thing as well. I grew up in Australia and migrated to Ireland about 10 years ago. First thing I noticed was people in Ireland really like to talk about death in everyday conversation. Who died? When the mass is. The removal of the body and the anniversaries of their death. It's so normal in conversation. In Aus it's rather taboo. There's a difference in the tone of conversation when talking about death. If you want to explore this topic in more detail, and granted, it's quite an unusual topic, I highly recommend Kevin Toulis' My Father's Wake, What the Irish Can Teach Us About Dying. Or as a start, watch his TED Talk on the same subject. Sounds like I would fit in. Here in America, when I casually bring up the dead body I found in a Panera Bread parking lot, I get horrified looks. Going full speed whatever the vehicle gives you on the highway. Germany. I drove the Autobahn in Bavaria. Holy F. I never thought driving 160 km per hour would be considered slow, but I had to drive in the farthest right lane as continuous drivers just blasted past me going at least 200 km per hour. After a few hours, it was awesome and felt normal. What are you doing with 160 on the left lane, parking? Face with monocle. Was looking for a fellow country person to point out our neurotic neck-breaking habit. Leaving a baby bundled up outside to sleep. When my previous neighbors had a baby, sometimes I would pass it on the porch, just sleeping. Including in winter as long as it's not too cold. Edit. To answer common questions, it's quite safe. You can have a monitor in with the baby, and even if you do live somewhere with lynx, bears, wolves etc., which I do, these animals are very shy of human settlements and I've never heard of a baby being hurt or killed in that way. As for abduction, well, crime is quite low in the Nordic countries, where this practice is most common, and most child abductions in general are committed by one of the parents or another family member. So the chances of a stranger snatching your baby are hugely low. I wasn't born here, but moved here, and at first I was mildly surprised by this practice, but it seems normal now. I might not recommend it in places with more crime, or where it's not the norm. Americans wouldn't want a CPS visit for instance, but it's perfectly fine here. And the babies do sleep pretty soundly. I live in the US and my mom did this when we were babies, in the city, on the porch of our row home. She would be inside doing her housework. It was pretty common. Of course, I'm a geezer and this was the 60s. I'm in Ireland, and I was left in pram and garden to sleep, that was in 60s too. My mother told me how once two strangers came to the door and asked if she knew her baby was hanging from pram by harness. I was very inquisitive and walked early so if I woke up would stand up in pram, hence the harness, and I fell overboard. Was hanging there laughing. Finland/Russia? In Finland it's a thing. You just tuck the baby very well, and even with below zero temperatures it sleeps like, well, a baby. No frostbites or anything else harmful happens. Nowadays you put a baby monitor with the baby, but for example when I was a baby there were no such things. And I've slept outside as a baby a lot. I've never heard that something bad has happened. Lived in Finland for a few years, it is such a common thing. We left our daughter if she was napping when we were in a cafe or restaurant, as long as they can breathe they are safe and won't be too cold. It's important to note the Finnish cold is quite dry so that helps. A colleague of mine was never able to get her and child to sleep unless out in a balcony. And actually, this applies to adults also. I learned it when I was taking my army duty. All you need is a thick spruce tree to go under, some spruce branches to insulate you from the frozen ground, good woolly underwear and a decent sleeping bag. I have never slept so well since. My mother and grandmother were in a tuberculosis sanitarium in the 1940s in the northeast US. My mother recalls that she and all the other small children, separated from their parents, slept outside on cots on the covered porches, as it was believed the freezing winter air would help kill the bacteria in their lungs. The nurses placed wool blankets on them. Whenever I hear about children sleeping outside bundled up, it reminds me that she spent every night of her childhood on a cot on a covered porch, and turned out okay. Walking everywhere barefoot, including supermarkets and cafes. Swimsuits being perfectly acceptable attire within a 2/4 of a kilometer radius of a water source. Edit, for how Kiwis reference acceptable togs wearing, see source. YouTube link. We were at a supermarket in an Australian beach town with a Japanese homestay student. There were a couple of girls shopping in just bikinis and with bare feet, and she was appalled. We asked if you wouldn't see this in Japan. She replied no, they would call the police. In Japan, there are public toilets in a few places where after urinating, you can opt to view a general health assessment report. Edited. I have seen this not only in Japan but also in hotels in Dubai. Some info here, USA Today. Web link. That's amazing. It sounds like some free GP healthcare to me. PP healthcare. I've heard amazing things about Japanese public restrooms. I've lived in Japan a decade and have never seen one of those smart toilets, so they must be only in very select locations. Edit. By smart toilet I mean the urinalysis ones, not the washlets with the different controls. Those have been around since the early 80s. Besides being generally cleaner, less vandalized and more private than American/Canadian public restrooms, the ones with Western-style toilets usually have washlets. However, older public restrooms in smaller cities and towns often still have squat toilets. A downside to public restrooms here is that they often don't have soap. I've always heard the line, Japanese just bring their own, but I've never seen anyone bust out some soap from their briefcase or whatever. In fact, Japanese have a bit of a reputation among expats here as seldom washing their hands at all after they use the restroom. I've definitely seen my share of guys beeline for the door straight from a stall. You've ruined everything. It's what I do. Note to myself to never shake the hand of a Japanese man. Maybe that's why they are bowing. I live in Malaysia. Nearly everyone here uses at least 3 languages in a sentence. Hi, can I a nasi lemak? Take away. I live in Iceland. People commonly use a mix of Icelandic and English, sometimes adding some Danish, French, or Polish word. Happens a lot in Montreal with 2 languages. Quite common to see a conversation where one person is only speaking French and the other is only speaking English. I'm pretty sure Spanglish is an official language in Miami/South Florida. Same in San Diego. Always Spanglish. Quest Kayla F. There's this sport in Finland called Jukonkanto, where men participate in running a specific distance, all while carrying their wife or girlfriend. Winner gets their woman's weight in beer. That sounds awesome. Having dinner late. Usually around 9 p.m. This feels like anywhere in South America, we tend to have dinner late. Probably talking to people so that no one else can hear you except the person you are directly talking to. It's a skill almost all Dutch people have, I have found, but it can be very unnerving for other people because you can be sitting pretty close to 2 people having a conversation and have no idea what they are saying. It's a small country and very densely populated with people who value their privacy. It's a survival skill, really. How do you accommodate people with tinnitus? We don't. They already know what all the buzz is about. Hardly the ringing endorsement I was hoping for. It's all just white noise to me now. That's funny because while true, the Dutch people I know, I am Dutch myself, can also be the loudest and really know how to have a roaring good time. Is this something you can bring to the US? Everyone here is so loud. Even on the bus or train. I hate it. You mean you don't want to participate in the stupid butt conversation someone is having at full volume on speakerphone while trapped on public transit? Come on, interject. They're inviting you. Arranged marriages. Hey there, fellow Indian. Are arranged marriages common or just something that is considered acceptable by standard? Very common and acceptable too, even among the young people. I have been to or heard about 5 weddings in my area this past month, all were arranged. I think Indians are deferential towards their parents and think that whoever they choose is going to be good. I had a roommate in college who knew she would eventually have an arranged marriage chosen by her father. She had the utmost faith that he would select her husband wisely, and she would not be disappointed. Edit, spelling. Honestly, it's more like arranged dating nowadays. Your parents set you up with a girl/guy and you hang out a few times, with a little bit of parental supervision around courting. It's pretty similar to church-going grandmothers setting their grandkids up. Go into a hot room naked, get out and jump into water. Repeat. And then hit yourself with a stick because you don't believe it's acceptable to do things you enjoy. Pointing things using lips. Calling your mate a female part and calling some female part mate. Saw an Australian dictionary recently and realized that there are some very specific uses of both words such that foreigners should not try them out casually. Saying hi or waving to strangers. Some areas in the country take it even further and you're considered rude if you drive through a residential street and don't wave to anyone walking as you pass them. Alcoholism and eating spuds for at least one meal a day. Sacrificing our firstborn for the Queen's immortality. Walking all over the countryside along ancient footpaths, as well as bridleways and byways, and a lot of disused railway tracks that have been designated as footpaths. These paths often go across privately owned land. The landowners are required by law to keep the paths clear, and if they put up a fence to provide a gate. If you're walking with a dog, you're expected to keep it under control around livestock and when the path crosses a road, but otherwise it's just accepted that dogs are going to run around sniffing everything. Web link. UK. Also, if you can prove that any footpaths have been in continuous use for horses or bicycles for some number of years, I forget, unchallenged by the landowners or police, then they can be upgraded to bridleways. Also, since I got a trail app, it's really crazy how many public paths there actually are. Thousands, millions. Instead of toilet paper, we use a handheld jet spray type thing to clean after crafting. Also, our milk comes in bags. Edit, I'm Indian for everyone who wants to know, and the meat bags look like. Web link. The pressure on those things must be set just perfect. Powerful enough to dislodge remaining poop residue but gentle enough to not have said residue splash back onto your hand, etc. F that weak crap, it's all or nothing. I'm going to need a bit more elaboration on your jet-powered butt cleaner. Handheld bidet. Google search it. AKA bum gun, love it. The only way to fly in SE Asia. Having someone fill up your gas tank for you. We have robots at busy intersections and crossing points to assist and control traffic flow. South Africa. Living with parents in their house, or much older ancestral house, even after being an adult, includes being married, having kinds everything. Wake up, get drunk, go on a train halfway across the country with 1,000s of other drunk guys, sing random songs and chants, watch 22 men kick a ball around for 90 minutes, get either upset or happy about it, go to the pub and get more drunk. Go home. Repeat next weekend. B-days. I teach in Japan, but grew up in America. The other day my students asked me wide-eyed if Americans really wear their shoes inside. I told them yes, and that sometimes my dad would cross his legs like this while we sat on the sofa and I could touch the bottom of his shoes. They were super grossed out. Ew, why would you wear shoes inside? That's so dirty. These kids are second graders, so it starts pretty young. That is really weird that you guys so that. Like I'm in Canada, so only across the border, and it's definitely a faux pas here. Calling people not related to you uncle/auntie. Raising your palm while crossing the road. Stalls by the roadside selling fried foods, fruits, drinks, etc. used to be a normal amount, maybe one or two in front of shop lots, but since a lot of people lost their jobs, they've taken to opening these type of stalls. Edit. Sorry, I should have probably included where in my original comment. It's Malaysia. Saying sorry all the time, even when you didn't do anything wrong. I bumped into a signpost today and said sorry. I once thanked a vending machine. And an ATM. Putting mayonnaise on a combination of random ingredients and calling it salad. Cheese in a spray can. Cheese. Please don't call it cheese, crying face. Tipping your waiter because you feel obliged to, not because you think they did a good job. The suggested tip amount in payment terminals used to be like October 12, 2015%, but is now 15, 18, 20%, where I live. Like 15% is the bare minimum. Why don't you just pay your employees a living wage instead of making the customer feel bad and obligated to pay? Rushing to buy KFC as soon as COVID-19 restrictions are announced. I went to Japan and I found some of the outfits weird. I have a friend, female, 28, who dresses like a young girl. For example, she's worn pigtails, a schoolgirl skirt, a cartoon unicorn graphic tee, a backpack that's so tiny it can't possibly be useful, glitter pink Mary Janes, a Victorian-style baby dress. Obviously she doesn't dress like that to work, but just as her normal everyday clothes, there were also other women who dressed like that. In America, if a grown woman, 25, dressed in any of things, it would 100% be weird. In Japan, it's just a normalized style of dressing. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.